Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I'm Daniel Chamberlain, co-host here with Joe Daniel, as always. We're giggling because we're switching from live to records and all this crazy stuff for the podcast. Just working on. We're scientists here. We're experimenting.
Yep.
And as you all know, podcasts are about downloads, and so we're just working to see how much y'all listen and if the live made a difference. Anyway, so we're just giggling because I screwed up the intro there. Let's talk about this episode first, the Power Minute, and then we'll get to our level ups. We are talking about tonight having practices that feel stagnant or boring. That was the title. You saw it when you clicked it. Realistically, we'll talk about keeping energy high. We're going to go into the 90-minute practice plan and getting in, getting out. Don't make it boring. Planning high energy, productive practices that get results. So make sure you're being efficient with your time. And then motivating athletes to perform in practice. So all the fun ways that we can go about that. Last week, we talked about not being able to stop dual threat quarterbacks and the simple things you can do to solve that problem. And then next week, we're talking about motivating athletes. Oh, I'm sorry. Read the wrong line. We're talking about our team doesn't play with confidence.
Put those grid lines in the spreadsheet. Do the multi.
Well, I did it right. I'm reading. Yeah, it's a completely different thing. I just almost wrote the same thing. I read the wrong place. Anyway, our team doesn't play with confidence. So you just have to yell, play more confident. A bunch, and then you'll solve that problem. So that's
confident.
That's right. Be confident.
It's one of my favorites.
Next week, done. 2 episodes in one right here. Real quick, I know your time is valuable, but if you've got a coach in your circle who could benefit from today's episode or any of the episodes we've done, please do text them a link. You never know kind of how far it can go, and you never know what other guys need. Multicolor on the spreadsheet. Love it.
Got it.
Let's jump to our level ups here. Joe, you're first.
Man, this is a long time coming. I might get emotional here. As you remember, many moons ago, a couple years ago, we both got into a little game on the Nintendo Switch called Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
We did.
And it is a phenomenal game. And I had about 125 hours in that game because let me tell you, you can jump in and you can just go do something and you can go do it for 10 minutes or 30 minutes, or you can play it all day. And well, I can't, but play it all night, maybe not all day. And I had so much fun with it. And then I was finally, I've got to go finish this game.
Got to beat it.
Got to beat the game. At some point, you've got to say, look, I'm burning out a little bit on all of the things. I want to come back to them. I want to do everything, but I'm burning out. That was over a year ago. And I know that. Probably more than that, but I know that because my last save was over a year ago. I want to say it was May of last year. And I finally was just like, as we all, we just had this conversation, as many of us are doing, tightened the belt on a few things, got rid of the Game Pass because I haven't been playing it. Yeah, because I have a backlog. There's no reason for me to have Game Pass for $20 a month. I finished Ori and the Blind Forest. I loved it. And I was like, all right, there's nothing else that I want to start more than games that I already have on Switch, games that I already have on Steam, on the Steam Deck. And honestly, that's how I game, is handheld stuff. I mean, it's just for the most part. So, and I really want to play Chrono Trigger. I've never played it. So that's my next.
Chrono Trigger? That was old school, right?
Old school, Super Nintendo. I've actually have the
90s or early 2000s or something?
No, earlier than that. I was 94, 95, something like that.
There was a Chrono
Cross was PlayStation.
Maybe that's the one I'm thinking of.
So anyway, that's I know that I want to get into some of these, and I've got a couple of other things I want to get into, but I was like, I need to finish some stuff. I got on it, and I was like, I'm going to look at guides and whatever I need to do. And of course, I got in there and I started looking around, and then I did 3 different other quests because you cannot help yourself in that game. And then finally, I was like, all right, let's go. And I sat down one night, a couple hours. I beat Tears of the Kingdom, rolled credits on it. I had a struggle with Ganondorf for a while. Ganon there. It was tough, but got it together. Beat Ganon, rolled credits on Tears of the Kingdom. I'm happy to have finally, that's one that I just constantly in the back. There's lots of games. I am masterful at the first 80% of games, right?
Yeah.
But I like to do everything, and then I get burned out, and then I never finish it, and I hit a wall, and it just never happens. The only games I don't have that problem with are like Metroidvania games that I tend to get through, but everything else I run into a wall. I love RPGs, love the big open world games. It's just finishing, you put 60, 70, 80 hours into a game. Witcher 3 took me forever, and I loved that game. Forever.
Final Fantasies always get me like that because I'm actually bought the Final Fantasy 7. They did the 3 different pieces of the remake, right?
Yeah.
And I hate it because it's a completable game, and then there's a little bit of side quest, but not a ton. But it's like I want the beginning to end, because you basically start over, right? You get a new character for each of the 3 pieces.
Oh, you can't. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
And then you got to redo all your materia and all. Anyway, just the new one's not very good, but the old ones, dude. Yeah, you can sink 300 hours into it, and then finally be like, all right, I'm gonna go, mosh the boss real quick, and they're usually cake. I can't beat Tears of the Kingdom until my son does, and he's 7. So
I did the exact same thing, by the way, with Breath of the Wild.
He plays it.
The exact same thing.
Yeah.
And now I'm finishing. So I actually, after I did that, or maybe even before I did, no, I think it was after I did that, I was like, all right, again, I'm not, kind of in this committed period of I'm not buying new stuff. I have so many things that some of them are games I need to finish, some of the games I never started, but I want to finish, that kind of stuff. And it's funny you mentioned Final Fantasy, because I got maybe 5 hours in Final Fantasy 4 that was 2, but is 4. I think it's 4. I have that on Game Boy Advance. I've got the good Game Boy Advance with the backlight and everything. But Final Fantasy 6, I know I'm at least halfway through. Final Fantasy 7, I know I've got tons of hours in, and I've got that on Switch. Problem with 6 is I think I had it on a retro handheld that I lost.
Right.
So I might have to go all the way back on that one. 10, I was at the final boss, had it on Game Pass, it went off Game Pass. So I'm like, I got to find this thing I got to find it used for Xbox to finish it. Like, it's got to be on Xbox because that's where my cloud save is.
Right.
But yeah, Final Fantasies, I have that problem, and I want to play 8, I want to play 9, I want to play all of them.
They're so good. That
And
might be the 3 best games.
7, 8, 9. The
PlayStation. 8's a little And
everybody
9,
has different opinions on 8 and
they're
9.
just
Yeah,
they're
I loved
so
10.
good.
I loved 10
Yeah.
so much, and I think I didn't have everything that I needed for the final boss, and I got stuck. And then it's the same kind of thing. And all I needed to do was backtrack a little bit, build up a couple things, and then go back. And I just, I get to that point. It's kind of like that thing where you're just like, all right, I'm just going to rush to the end. And then you get to, because, I would just dawdle so much in the first 20 hours. And then finally I'm like, 40 hours in, I'm like, I'm just going to rush to the end. And it's like, yeah, I'm not ready now.
Yeah.
The way I should be. Yeah. Final Fantasy is that way. I'm actually finishing A Link to the Past now. I've actually never finished that. Then I'm on the final boss for Minish Cap. And
Where'd
then
you get Link to the Past at?
Huh?
Where'd you get Link to the Past?
Where did I get it?
Yeah.
I have it on Game Boy Advance. The
Okay.
Link to the Past, 4
I
Swords.
wish I could get it on Switch or something, but you got to buy that stupid monthly Switch Nintendo, and I'm not doing
See,
that.
I have that, and that's an annual thing. I'm not canceling that. I have literally limitless games to play, because I think it's like $20 a year or something like that. It's not expensive.
Oh, I thought it was way more expensive. I may look at it just for that game alone.
Especially so there's 2 tiers. There's the lower tier, which it was 20. It might be a little bit more, and there might be a family tier or something like that, but it's like 20 or $40 for the year. And that gives you Super Nintendo. I know it gives you those 2. All of those. There's so much stuff in there. I mean, there's so many games that you could just put hours and hours into.
Yeah.
And then there's a higher tier that I think includes Game Boy, Genesis. I think you have to switch to use the GameCube stuff, but I think that's coming in. So, I mean, I know when I turn it on, like I have just limitless games. And I mean, even the Genesis stuff. I mean, there's Fantasy Stars and all that sort of stuff. I have the Genesis Classics collections, has like all the Fantasy Stars. It's like, I had so much stuff. There's no reason to buy anything new, because this is all stuff that I wanted. Because look, I don't know if you were this way. When we were kids, I was a sports gamer. Like, everything I played was sports.
I still like
And now, like these games that interest me are $2, and like all the Dragon Quest games, all of that stuff that interests me now, and takes 80 hours, which I don't have. Like,
Makes it
There's
tough.
no reason for me to buy something new. The occasional new thing, Red Dead Redemption 2 was just like amazing. Witcher, when Witcher 4 or whatever comes out, I'll probably get it. I mean, Grand Theft Auto 6, I'll probably get it, even though I haven't finished 5. Same deal. But
there's some games you just have to get because they're the next.
You got to get it. And then, like
right?
Elden Ring, I want Elden Ring so bad. I've never
don't have time for those. That's a learning. I was gonna say my video game. I had been watching YouTube while I'm working, and I saw DayZ. And I don't know if you've ever played DayZ, but it's like a
No, I've seen it though.
yeah, like survival zombie player
Yeah,
versus player. You start with nothing. You got to find everything, and don't die of hunger, and don't die of cold and thirst. I've yet to survive very long. I'm brand new to it, and it's not a casual game. You got to like learn the ins and outs of the game. Anyway, it's the same way. Like I had to have it because it scratched that itch for me, and now I just don't have the time to sit and actually get at it.
God, I look at the Monster Hunter games, and I'm like, but it can't. Yeah. Anyway,
Probably
everybody who doesn't listen to video games has now left the podcast.
Yeah, that's okay. We didn't do a week 0, so it's okay. We got to spread it out over the.
That's right.
My level up is really just practicing what we preach all the time. I know we talk about resiliency and like don't let the little things get you down so bad, and talk about kids that right now, something bad happens in a game and you want them just to tighten up their chin strap and acts like the next play is the most important play and blah, 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 blah. We started food trucking a couple weeks ago. Sunday, I went and bought groceries to cook this week. This is Tuesday as we're recording this. So Sunday afternoon, I come home to put up a couple $100 in groceries, and the refrigerator's out. Just hot as can be. So not only did I have food I couldn't put away, but I had spoiled food in the trailer, which now stunk. I went to drop it off Monday, as quick as I could get it in. And we have to have a vent hood over the top of the grill, and it has a fan on top. It had fallen off. So I'm driving to go take this thing in, and it falls off. So I finally got the fridge fixed today. It just had a coolant leak. Freon leaks. They got it charged and fixed, and I went to go get all the parts to fix the stupid vent hood, and it took me like an hour and a half. And as I'm doing that, I realized I've had a blowout, and so one of the tires is missing half the rubber, and I'm just like, what does a man do?
Yeah.
But from Sunday evening to Tuesday evening was not good for me. Luckily, Monday I could have worked. Basically, if it rains, you don't go because no one's going to stand in front of your trailer in the rain and order food while you're comfy cozy in there staying dry. So until we figure out a way to do that, which I just don't think people are going to do it. Even if you could make them dry, put up a little tent shelter, they're not going to go in there. So I probably wouldn't have worked today. Monday I probably could have some, but today it was just too wet. So I only lost one day of actual work, but it's just all the food and then all the time and then all the repairs. Now it adds up. So I had me a little hissy fit sitting on top of my trailer trying to tighten a bolt because they wouldn't get tight, and lots of things were just going on. And so I had to practice what I preached and go, at the end of the day, it's just money and a little bit of time, and we get this knocked out and we'll move on. And now I've got 2 new tires on one side of the trailer, and I've got a vent hood that's secured again with new parts, and the refrigerator leak is fixed, and it sucks in the moment, but you gotta practice. But you know what? It still wasn't an immediate it ain't like I missed a tackle and could just jump back out the next play happy-go-lucky, right? It took me a couple hours of just being pissy, throwing a fit. My wife says it started because of video games, because I was playing college football 26, and there's a drill on there that I was doing for my Road to Glory or whatever the heck it's called. I don't play that version enough to know. But it's like a linebacker drill, and it's 1-on-1, linebacker versus running back. But the running back has 10 offensive linemen or something. I guess let's see, 5, 7. So it's like a 2 tight, and they're dummies. So you have to be spill and force and alley. Like you can't win. And if he gets 3 yards, you lose. It's like, what is going on here? I'm sure some of you that are listening, if you play the game and you do that mode, you've probably gotten on there and checked that out. But I was just furious going, how do I spill inside out to nobody? And he runs around the edge. Okay, well, I'll go to the edge. Well, then he cuts it back.
Yeah.
I'll feather it. And then he puts a foot in the ground, does a spin move, and beats me to the outside. I was like, I'm furious. So probably an hour I played it, just got madder and madder. So she swears it's all because of that. But anyway, I was resilient. I'm better now. Life goes on. Good level up.
I love that. Is the one thing I love about my wife and gaming. Like I said, I'm always just sitting there on the couch next to her playing the game. I'm just, we're in the same room, but I'm playing the game, playing a stupid Zelda game or something. And I'll, of course, yell at it. She's like, "What's happening?" And I'm like, shut, just talking to the game. I'm just talking to the game.
My wife hates them with a passion. She thinks it's the stupidest waste of time. How dare you? And now I've got my kids hooked on them, so we're in it to win it.
Yeah.
All right, man, let's pay the bills and let's move on with the episode here.
Let's do it. All right. Difference between a championship defense and a defense that is struggling every Friday night is not just talent and it's not luck. It is your system. Without a system, you can scramble every week trying to fix problems on the fly. Players are confused. Your assistants are not on the same page. Your defense is constantly playing from its heels. I have worked with over 10,000 football coaches, and many of them are making the same mistakes you may be making right now in your season. Overcomplicating football, running a stack of plays with no reason behind it, calling front stunts, blitzes, and coverage from the seat of your pants. And once we get those coaches running a real defensive system, everything changes. The players play faster, the coaches have more confidence, and you start winning more football games. That's why I put together my guide called What You Need to Know to Build Your Ultimate Defensive Football Coaching System. And inside that guide, you're going to get the blueprint for building a defensive system that works to simplify your playbook, get your players to buy in, and take control of the game. You can download the free copy right now at joedanielfootball.com/system to take the guesswork out of coaching and build your ultimate defensive system. And there is still time to turn your defense around this season. It can be as subtle as taking one little thing from this guide and making that change right now. It is not only going to change your defense for this season, but it is going to fix your defense going forward so that next year you're working forward. So we want to start making these changes now, not just sitting there and going, well, this crap is broken and waiting out. So go to joedanielfootball.com/system and download that free guide to building your ultimate defensive system.
I don't want to pitch the same thing I always do tonight. I really just want to emphasize how much time you can save in your career with joedanielfootball.com. And yes, Joe pays me to be on this podcast, but for the first year that I was in the system, I was just like every other member, just a paying subscription member, jumping into the chalk talks and guys, I'll never be able to really put a number to it. But when I, at 4 years of coaching experience, was in a room with someone with 10 years or 15 years of the old school, grind it out to learn it the hard way, I call it. I mean, that's the football knowledge I had. I could sit and have a conversation with him. I was my 3rd year in football, and a head coach was like, I need you to be my everything analyst kind of guy, because I just had a grasp of the major concepts of football. I don't know everything. There are still tons of schemes I don't know. I will probably never put time in the flex bone because I have just had such a terrible experience. It's not the every offense, but it is an offense. It is a defense. It's a way to go and do coach ball that is so simple. And like I said, you legitimately in a year or two can be like that 8, 9, 10-year guy of experience. So if you're new to this, if you're listening to the podcast to learn about it and you got through all of our crazy video game talk, please do go to Joe Daniel Football and sign up. Just get whatever the cheapest one is and just jump in and learn some videos. And then when you step up a notch, you're a coordinator and you need a little more help with something, go to the premium package and get your film broken down and all that good stuff. It's years and years of your life that you'll be paying to save because you'll be that much further ahead. Anyway, there you go. There's my extremely honest and heartfelt thinking about Joe Daniel Football. So joedanielfootball.com, do the guide like he said, and then just get it. Just get it and go. Let's jump into part 1 here. Tonight we're talking about preventing our practice from feeling stagnant and boring. We've all been out there. We've all been the coach. It's like, it's so hot and you're just miserable and you can't get enough water and kids are just kind of zombies, right? They're not doing much. We have talked about the 90-minute practice plan a million times on the podcast, and it's still, this is what happens when you have a philosophy and you have a way you do things and you're trying to be efficient with your time. But Joe, just for those that are new to the show, because there's some out there, just walk me through this 90-minute practice plan and how it helps me prevent that stagnant, boring practice thing going on.
Yeah, it feels to you and I probably like we've talked about it a lot, but it is still, if not the most common question, it is towards the top. How do I plan these practices? How do I make a better practice? How do I make a more efficient practice? How do I do things in practice that transfer? to the field? How do I get my players to be more enthusiastic in practice? Like, just how do I practice plan? I don't know if you and I talked about it. Might have talked about it on here. A few weeks ago, I went and dug through a couple library books, which is where I figured that if a brand new dad who just found out, hey, you're going to be the coach because nobody else is, of your son's youth football team, just as an example. I grabbed the same books that I got. They're not the same books that I got, but when I got my first coaching job and I moved in to my 1-bedroom apartment in Newport News, I was coaching at Smithfield High School, thought I knew what I was doing because I played football and everything. I went to my first practice, and then that night I went home and I went to the Barnes and Noble and I bought Successful Football Coaching or something like that. And, you guys who've ever bought these things, you know what I'm talking about. They're the books that are in the bookstore in the library. They're not the coaching books that are up on this shelf. Now Coaching Team Defense sounds like that, but I promise you it is not. That is Fritz Shermer. That is a very detailed, that is an excellent book, by the way. I did write the foreword for that version. I can tell you, though, it's a phenomenal book. And I think you can still get it on Amazon. Fritz Shermer. Great basics defense book. But I went and looked at the Coaching Football for Dummies books, one of which was Coaching Football for Dummies. And curiosity, I looked through, and I know that one of them, at least, a youth football coaching book, the last chapter was about how to make a practice plan. And so I flipped to it and it had some things about how to make your install plans and then how to make your game week practice plans. And then it had some sample practice plans. And that is not what a practice plan looks like. It is not. And so what I realized is that the education that is out there on practice plans, and I looked at the Coaching Football for Dummies book, and whoever wrote that was a dummy about practice planning. That is not what a practice plan should look like. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but it's not as intuitive or as simple as somebody who's been doing it for 20 years or somebody who's heard us. Even if you've heard us talk about it on the Football Coaching Podcast, maybe you've never been to JDFB, maybe you've never been a member of JDFB Premium Coaching Systems, you've never watched one of the master classes in the defensive drill system about practice planning and seen me fill out a practice plan template. You've never been in one of our systems and seen the practice plan templates and everything for the 4-2-5 defense install. Then you probably don't have an idea. And if you Google, and I'm always curious, let's Google football coaching practice plan. Let's go template. Everybody looks for the template. And not bad. The first one that comes up is not mine. Mine is on a Scribd website. At least somebody stole it and liked it enough to put it up there. The first one,
I love it when that's
yeah, I love it. Yeah, thanks. So, the first one that comes up, and I'm not going to call the site out, but I'll just tell you that the first one that comes up is like, it's not terrible, but it's not good.
Yeah.
Like, it's not good. Like, I'll just give you the very first drill. Okay, and you can find it. So, like I said, it's not terrible. It's not the worst. And I don't know this one. This looks like a website that was built by somebody who's just like a big site that wanted to capture some traffic. The first actual drill, the first drill is the warm up is fine. Jog around the field. Okay, that's not the worst warm up that there's ever been. Foot fire and drop all players, which is essentially up downs for 10 minutes.
I found it too just now. And oh my God, that's funny.
For 10 minutes
of up
minutes,
down.
we're doing up downs. Up downs is a punishment. It's not a drill. And don't do it.
It says
you end up with players with just like, don't do up downs. I used a thing when I was in Amelia, And I've tried to get other people to do it. We just always follow, and I've used it with the offensive line, but we did a reminder and we called it a royal reminder. Okay. And that was all we would do. When somebody dropped an F-bomb, I ain't got time. I ain't got time to run you. I got time. Royal reminder. Bam, they hit an up, down, their back up, their backhand. That's what we did. All it does is remind them, don't do that. That's it. That's the only purpose that I have for an up, down. 10 minutes of foot fire and drop, the entire team.
I love the little sidebar over there. Or introduce
Or
new
new plays. I mean, possibly. Maybe something productive, but now screw it.
Man.
The offensive line drills. And it's too late now. It will come back around, I promise you. Because it's very good. It's very good. To a very small number of coaches, I released an offensive line package. And it has the 9 drills that I use for offensive line play. It has basically a 5-module course on all the things that you need to do to coach up specifically undersized offensive linemen, but inexperienced offensive linemen, anything. Your guys who aren't 6'4", 330 and just got it, right?
Right.
And so the 2 offensive line drills that we have here for our offensive linemen. 10-yard drive the attacker 10 yards back. Why? That's never happening.
It's inside zone, baby. Let's go.
And that is not inside zone.
And they're gonna down block anyway.
And then the next drill, that's 10 minutes of just, they're not down blocking anybody. Just block the man in front. Everybody's got a T over them, right?
Oh, that's right.
The playbook. Everybody's just T's.
Right.
5 guys with T, 5 circles with a T.
Tee him for 10 yards.
And then the next 10 minutes, you are doing the pancake drill. Listen, guys. Listen. Let me tell you 2 things that don't make great offensive linemen. Driving anything 10 yards and the pancake drill. Because unless you have guys that can actually drive somebody for 10 yards or pancake on a majority of their plays, you are wasting time.
Yeah.
So they're bad drills. I just wanted to that's a total sidebar, but it's bad. What I realized very quickly is that the science of practice, and this is the first thing that you got, and please, you guys
some bad ones out here.
You guys who listened, I know, you guys who listen to the football coaching podcast and you stay silent, please understand this is what people are getting if you stay silent. When you talk to another football coach, especially a new football coach, and you don't mention, I listen to the football coaching podcast, you should check it out. This is what they're getting. This is why you need to look, and it doesn't have to be me. There's lots of good football coaching podcasts. No, there's not lots of good football coaching podcasts out there. As far as I know, there's 2 that they should be listening to. Because there's other good ones, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I trust Kenny. I trust me. The other ones, the problem with the other ones is most of them are interview shows, in which case you're getting like D1 coaches. That's not going to help you.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, a lot of that is not going to help you. I'm just, sorry. It's not going to help you when you're starting out. You're going to be trying to do too much stuff. So if you don't share, you're hurting the industry, and it's an industry that is already hurting. So share with everybody you can. Just forward it to them. Send them a text. Hey, I got this. I watched this episode. I listened to this episode and I thought of you, and just send it to them. It's nice. They'll appreciate it. I promise you. I would love if somebody did that for me. I wouldn't listen to it. No, I'm just kidding. But
that's funny.
So this is the long way. The point of all of this is practice planning is not intuitive. It is not obvious. The drills to run in football are not intuitive, and they are not obvious. I got to close this because every time I look over it, I laugh a little bit.
Joe, I think a big part of practice playing, the problem is everybody wants the answer, and it's just like building a playbook. It's just like starting or creating a depth chart. There's not an answer to this, guys.
I think
there's so many variables. And I understand you need a place to start. And look, if you need a place to start, the 90-minute practice plan is great. It forces you to pick a few things and get good at it. Look, I think most people I've talked to in coaching are around that 2-hour mark, right? That's
Look, here's the difference between a 9-minute practice plan and a 2-hour practice plan. If you don't want to do the 9-minute practice plan, do 5-minute periods instead of 4-minute periods.
yeah,
That's the only difference.
yeah, because all of
Ultimately.
ours are 5-minute and we're a 2-hour team. So I think that people get caught
Don't
up
get
in
hung up on the
wanting
90-minute
the way.
period.
Look, I'm real big in my life, but I want to know what's the best way to do this. Why would I waste my
Yeah.
time when I can go Google the most efficient way to do something, right? Like
That's
I
what we
sewed a
spend so much
button on
time
a
on
shirt
ChatGPT
yesterday,
with,
Joe. I had
right?
a shirt, the button fell off. I sewed it on. You know how I did it? I Googled it and
Yeah.
it showed me this really quick, and I did it. I didn't go learn how to run a sewing machine. I just got a needle in there. My point is, you can get sometimes the answer to stuff. That's not how practice planning works, right? It's got to
Football doesn't
answer
work that way.
the problems you're having. And so, once again, I love the idea of the 90-minute practice plan because it makes you figure out what the heck are our problems. I can't go out here and just put the ball down at the 20 and run 35 plays of offense. We have to pick
Right.
what we're bad
I
at
think that's
and
what a
get
lot of
good at
coaches
it,
fall into, yeah.
or what do we need to be really good at this week to be successful? Not to say that we're bad at anything. Maybe we're overall a decent team. You've got problems. You can solve some kind of problem. But maybe it's just we need to hit these 3 things that are gonna help us win this week. So, I don't know, but you've got to prioritize, and then you're not overcoaching your kids. You're not trying to solve 10 problems a week because you can't. It's impossible.
That again, I know I'm talking about something that's not available to a lot of coaches who are listening to this right now, but that offensive line coach, one of the things that I have an offensive line coaching product that I just put together, I broke down 101 game clips, mostly inside zone, outside zone, or stretch and power. Just so happened that we didn't have like a ton of counter on hand to put in there. We didn't need it because the whole point was not how to run our offense. It was what you look at in film to identify the problems with your offensive line. And then another part of that course is the offensive line practice planning guide with the templates. And so you identify what you need and then you put it into the practice plan. So you've got to understand that ultimately the practice plan, and don't go backwards with this. The practice plan is not based on the problems you had last Friday night or Saturday afternoon or whatever. And this is why every youth football coach needs to have film and film analysis. By the way, just a side note, this is just, just I want you to know, I want everybody to know this because Quick Cut is $250 for youth coaches. Okay. You don't need to exchange film. So I didn't know that until recently. And I'm like, why do I have all these youth coaches? Like, yeah, we don't have that. It's $250, guys. And it's incredibly important for you to be able to break down this film and find the problems. You don't need to watch the film of the other team nearly as much as you need to watch your team. And most coaches spend way too much time on the other team and not nearly enough time self-scouting and figuring out what the problems you had last week. And what we're building the practice plan around, we always talk about you got to start right to finish right.
Right.
You have to start with the end in mind. You are not building a practice plan based on what you looked like last week. You are building a practice plan based on what you want to look like next Friday. And that is why you build the entire week. But that's what people don't understand. Why do we have a practice plan shell that goes Monday through Thursday and we show up on Friday night, whatever your week looks like, if it's just 2 days, if it's whatever it is, if it's you play on Thursday, Monday through Wednesday or whatever your schedule is. The practice plan, I can make the entire practice plan. I'll have to make some adjustments for sure. We just weather in general. We have a lightning day. It's like, okay, wait, some adjustments. We got to get this in tomorrow. I can make the entire practice plan for the week on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, drills and everything, because I know the problems we had last Friday. I know what we want to look like the following Friday. And then it's just a progression to where we get to. And so if your practices feel stagnant and boring, you're not working a progression from Monday to Friday of what you want to look like at the end. You're doing the same, I hate them, everyday drills. You're doing the same thing. And then you go, oh, we're going to mix it up this week. And how do you mix it up? You do defense first, or you do offense first. The one we used to do is we're going to start out with 4 plays at goal line. We're just going to go straight from warm up where we jogged a lap and then did 10 minutes of up downs. And we're going to go straight into goal line defense.
Imagine 10 minutes of up
And
down.
like,
I would get
that's
tired of
how
blowing
we
a
light
whistle.
them up. And we're going to get their attention. Now they're still going to be bored because they still know that this crap has no point, that this has no purpose. There's no end point. And so the most important, the practice plan templates that we have, and I don't, somewhere you can probably, you used to be able to get them for free. I don't know. Email me, joe@joedanielfootball.com. Anyway, my assistant's going to hate this. They'll send you one. Okay. Look, you're welcome. You're gonna email them. You're not gonna hear back from them in a couple days because I'm not gonna tell them about this because I'm gonna forget about it, and then they're going to message me and say, why are all these people asking for this? And I'm gonna say, this is what you give them, and then they'll get it to you. There's gonna be a couple days, but it's okay. I don't mind. They don't mind. They'll just be confused. Joe@joedanielfootball.com. Ask for say on the football coaching podcast, whatever this is, episode 8, season 19. He said he'd give me a practice plan. Listen. That practice plan is the part everybody ignores. Okay. There's the date. There's the time. Maybe. I don't know. It's the date. I mean, we all know when practice starts. It's on the times on the side. There's the things that we're installing today. And then everybody jumps straight down to the drills. Everybody leaves this one little line. Well, it's 2 lines because we do offense and defense. Focus. And that focus, each position group has a focus. What that is, you tell your players, come to me, listen to me. You get your offensive linemen, you get your defensive backs, you get whatever your position group is. You say, gather around, children. Focus. This is what must get fixed today or this week. I think it's the other thing is you think it's going to get fixed in one day. It's not. The biggest problem coaches make is they go, we have this problem with such and such. When they go to YouTube and they find a drill, or God forbid they come to something of mine and they just grab a drill and then they just run that drill. Now, I hate everyday drills, but I also hate the idea of running a drill one time and thinking it fixed anything because you don't create that linkage in the brain with running it one time. You commit to that drill. Drills, you do the same drills, but they're progressive. We could add one word on this. We could say progressive everyday drills. And every single day, every single week, those everyday drills progress. Sometimes they combine even, and that would be fine. So we just call them PEDs, progressive everyday.
I'm in.
Would you give our players PEDs? We win more games. See? Don't
love it.
It's a funny joke here, but it's not in front of your AD, right?
That's right.
Don't put that on the practice plan. But yeah, we run our PEDs. And don't email and ask for PEDs.
Inject it into their veins.
Yeah. But the key here is every week you've got to communicate to the players, guys, this is what happened. This is what we did. This is what we need to look like on Friday night or on game day, on Saturday morning, whatever it is. And this is the plan to repair it, to fix it. And I would go an extra step and say, does everyone understand how if we work this drill, it will make you better at this part of the game? Because the fastest you're going to get your players to take up your drills is if they understand why you're doing them.
Right.
And they understand. I love athletic speed and movement. I love Coach Basquette. And the more I learn from Coach Basquette, and we added more and more stuff in athletic speed and movement that explains why each movement is important. And Dale has always said, look, these guys don't want all the science and all of that. They just want to run the drills and see the results. And that works. But I believe very strongly, and Dale does too, but he just knows what a lot of football coaches want. He's worked with them a long time. I believe very strongly. I take a lot of time because in athletic speed and movement progression, we let the players recover fully before we do the next drill. And I take that minute or 2 minutes of recovery and I explain what we're doing and why it works. And I get players buying into that. And I ask them questions. Why do we do this? Because the arm controls the strike and all of the 3 phases and all that sort of stuff. I do the same thing on offensive line, I do the same thing on defensive line, same thing on linebackers. Why are we doing this? Why do you have to follow the guard? Because if the guard pulls over there, they have one extra guy. If you stay back here, they outnumber us. But if you follow him, we match numbers. They haven't added anything. They haven't won anything. We only are at a disadvantage if you don't do this. So why do we do a guard pull drill? Why do we follow the guard when he pulls? Because this is what happens. Why are we doing a combo drill? Coach, why aren't we on the sled? Because the sled doesn't move. How many defensive linemen have you ever had who don't try to get off the block? And you can drive them 10 yards down the field. The sled doesn't move. So why do all you guys, why do people not like when I say don't use a sled? Because that's what you've always done. But the reality is this: the sled is conditioning and it's strength work. You can do it in the off season. You can do it at the end of practice. In season, I'm working on blocking players that move. And that's what matters to me.
We've kind of moved into the second part here, which is
I'm skipping around. Like I've done this talk a lot. Yeah.
It's about, planning high energy, productive practices to get results. But you're right here, man. You hit it on the head with stop doing the same everyday drills. Even when you talk about your practice shells, right? I feel like practice shells, even when I started using them, it was eliminating work. Well, I'm going to run the same practice. Every Monday is going to be Monday practice. But that was, a couple of years ago. And now I've learned a lot more since then. I understand that practice shells aren't there to run the same drills every day. They're there so that, we already know that we're moving from defense to special teams to offense to whatever your culminating event is, right? If you're
3 periods of D and D, 3 periods of O and D, 3 periods of D
Right.
group, 3 periods of O group. And then you look at it and you go, hey, we don't need as much indie now because it's late October. We need more group. We need more team run. Hey, we don't need 15 minutes of 7-on-7 because we're playing a double wing team this week. So let's do 5 minutes of 7-on-7, or let's kill 7-on-7 altogether because they only throw the ball twice a game.
Right.
But the shell just speeds things up. But you're right. It's a shell. It's not a repeating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To get to that high energy side, I think the biggest thing there is kids want to be learning. Right. And look, I can remember when I probably didn't know the playbook well enough anyway, or even the play calls as a young high school running back in the freaking wing tee or whatever we ran, flex, but I don't know. That just lining up on the 20 every time and running the play didn't do it. Now, I should have been getting something out of it because, like I said, I didn't know the offense very well. But would have really given me something if it was like a read. Was there something I was learning each and every rep except for just the snap, right? Is it a situation? Is there something situational here? Is it whatever it is, man? I just feel like that's how you create that high energy. Every play matters. Never is it a monotonous, we're calling the play again because I wrote it on this script. Or we're calling the play again because we run, our inside zone on Tuesdays. Put something else to it. Give kids something to read, something to understand. Where's the bubble on this line? If you're talking offense, where's that outside backer? Are we reading an RPO here or not? Mix things up and give kids extra things to look at. Now, obviously you can counter that with well, coach, we know what they're going to line up in on Friday night. Well, you probably don't. You probably
no, because they're kids. They don't even know. What
especially if you do any of the things that Joe, Kenny, or I do, which is just decoration on decoration, just window dressing, right? To run the same 5 plays all night long. You have no idea what they're going to come out in. So mix things up. Give your kids something to look at and go, I've got to problem solve this. The worst thing, they're going to get tired and unmotivated and have no energy when, like you said, number one, this doesn't matter. This isn't doing anything for me. Or 2, we've been doing it forever. Every week we've done the same thing that's not getting us better. Or 3, it's just lining up and just taking another snap because coach said we're going to get 35 snaps this period. I think you got to get rid of all that. Even when you go to the scout side, okay, obviously we all have to have a scout team. Putting the scout team back into your system and quit showing them play cards that say, all right, run this here play right here. They run this pass concept. Let's run play 1.
Follow this line.
Play 12. Play 15. No, don't quit. Put it into your terminology, however you would tag that up. And maybe it's the first time, hey, we've never tagged scissors before. Guys, this is scissors. Now I've installed scissors tag into my offense.
You will learn so much when you start doing this. It is so valuable because all of a sudden your playbook expands. Yeah. Now you can do so because you learn your system. Pistol Power Offense didn't used to be able to do all this stuff. It came through Scout Team.
Yeah. So put it back into your term. Now your scout team is engaged because it's no longer, hey, we're going to run this play that we saw on the card, and the bigger kids are going to bully us, and I'm going to get smacked 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and the varsity is going to celebrate like they did something, and I'm going to be picking myself up off the ground again. It's not that anymore. It's we're executing our offense. Sure, maybe you still get blown up every once in a while, but I bet your offense is designed to win regardless of what the other team is doing or how big they are, how strong they are. Now, if you're outmatched at 11-11 on your scout team, that's a crappy day. But figure it out. I mean, if it's that bad off, go to half line or something, right? But keep it
Put 2
engaged.
more guys, make it 13 on 11. That's
There
the
you
best
go.
thing you can do in a scout team. Everybody's running our stuff, but then we got 13 guys out there. Take 2 guys who don't want to learn anything, or just have them go out there and be rovers, and just give your defense a little bit of an edge back. It's more fun that way.
And then, I kind of said it earlier that, productive practices to get results. You have to be problem solving that week. Joe, you've said already. What did we want to look like this week? What was our problem from last week? I want to watch the other side and see what they do a little bit, but it's just so I can throw a wrinkle at them to pick on a thing. Hey, this team can't align to ace or too tight.
Yeah, you're definitely watching the other team.
We're going to carry some too tight, or their trips check is absolute garbage to the weak side. So we're going to go in and put in that tag, right? So we're still doing things to beat next week's team, but I think you're right, man. The majority of people listening to this podcast are probably trying to turn around a team. They're probably trying to get that 4th or 5th win in a season. You'll get so many more wins just by getting better at what you do.
Yeah.
Time back into that 90-minute practice plan. You don't have time to go out and install everything. You can't put in a whole new playbook this week and say, oh, I just tagged up a bunch of stuff. No, you better get good at your base and get a wrinkle or two that's going to help you be successful this week. But you got to work back on the fundamentals.
That's why there's a lot of things there. I'll work backwards. One of the reasons I'm such a big believer in the 4-2-5, and about 2 out of every 3 defensive coaches that come into JDFB should be running the 4-2-5. And about 2 out of 3 are, I say this, about 2 out of 3 are, and it probably should be more like 3 out of 4 or more should be starting in the 4-2-5. But it's a personal, like, you got to believe in it. But the reason that I believe in it very strongly is it has the least, like a 4-2-5 cover 3 has the least moving parts. And so while you are, it's the hardest one to break. And so while you are out there trying to teach all of these things and going, well, cover 3 can't do this, or a 4-2-5 can't do, forefront can't do this, and we need to be able to slant and move and get it to looks and blitz and do all this stuff. You're not, the easiest path to get better is to be very simple. And the JDFB 4-2-5 it's not the TCU 4-2-5. I stole a lot of stuff from TCU. It's not what other people teach in the 4-2-5. It is, but the number of coaches that we have who come in 0-10, 1-9, 2-8, and they run this system and they get to 5-5, 6-4, because they have players that need to be very simple and they need to just get really good at what 1 or 2 things they need to do. And they break through and they get that competitive team. And then they start adding again. And the problem is their players are still the same guys they were before. They're still the guys that need it to be simple.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a slow add. A lot of times we have guys the second year, they blow it out. We have a lot of guys who come in and they want to run something more complicated, in particular the 4-3. And the 4-3 has a place, and I love the 4-3, but the place is usually not your 0-10 teams or your 1-9 teams. And we have so many 0-10, 1-9, 2-8 teams that want to run the 4-3. Not so many, but a few. Just the number of them, the percentage of them who halfway through the season have been like, all right, how do I make this a 4-2-5? Because I definitely told them, and then it's not working. So yeah, you want to be able to work on those things and get better at you and the focus on you and who we are and what we do. And it was kind of a running joke when I was as a head coach running our 4-2-5 defense. And when we were, every week we would come in and I would basically show 5 plays of the offense, 5 plays of the defense. So they would have a picture. Here's what they do best. And that would be our Monday meeting. And then we'd go on the field and do Monday special teams. And we would do install and special teams. That's all we did on Monday. So Monday was, 20 minutes of install. It wasn't that much, 10 and 10. And then, 40 minutes of special teams, which was, heavy on onside kicks, and then nothing else changed. We always Monday was the day for the kicker to shine with all the things that he played around working on, like try tricky kicks, and you do a drop kick, do a helicopter kick, do this, do that, and we would work that, and then we would go through 5 minutes because it didn't change. Punt return would change, punt block, punt that changes, but nothing else. We didn't do extra point on Monday because we were on the field that didn't have uprights. That was Thursday, and we only did extra points after we were up running clock. So it was 8 games. But we would go and we would show that. So this works, by the way. So we would go and we'd show those 5 clips or whatever, 5 or 10 clips of what the other team does. And with the defense, every single week, it was all right. What are we going to do? And the kids knew we're going to do what we do. We're going to run our defense because we're going to 4-2-5, cover 3, cover 1 that would adapt to anything, and we didn't need special stuff. The only time we needed something special was those double wing teams. And once we got it in once, that was what we did every single time somebody lined up. You line up in double wing, bam, we're in charge or bolt, and it's all in our systems. It's there. So you get really good at what you do with the practice planning, the high energy. I learned this first because years ago in JDFB, we didn't work with hardly any youth coaches, very few youth coaches. We would work with, at that time, we worked with high school. We worked with more colleges at that time. And we worked with a lot of semi-pro teams and international. And we still work with a lot of international and semi-pro. We still work with a few college teams, but not as many, and more high school, mostly, but a lot more youth and middle school than we did in the past. And but I learned this from working with the semi-pro and the international adult teams. So where your players have a job and a wife and kids, and you need them to show up to practice. And it's very easy for them to say, I'm tired from work. I got to be home, take care of the kids. It's very easy for them to miss practice and have a very valid excuse.
Right.
If your practice, if they don't believe that if I miss practice, I am legitimately missing something. I am legitimately missing a chance to get better, one that I cannot recreate on my own, then they won't show up. And those guys have huge problems getting players to show up. And what we do doesn't eliminate it, but it helps significantly because our players know exactly what it is that we are doing that is making them better. Because it's very easy for a player to say, well, I'm not going to make it to practice, but I'm going to go work out in the home gym.
Right.
Right? Because I'm doing something. But think about like working out, like going to the, like for me, as I think about it from my, experience as a competing in Olympic style weightlifting. I'm not going to go work out. Like I'll skip a curls, and we don't have these workouts. Chris would never program this, but the one that I'll tell you this, the one that everybody skips, I skipped it Monday, and it's the first time I've skipped it in years. After a competition, I didn't compete, but we were on the cycle of a competition. So there was a state level competition this week. After a competition, the Monday following the competition is always like 70% overhead press, right? We're Olympic style weightlifters. It has a purpose, but it's like the light. That's the one everyone misses. That's the one everyone misses. People who never miss, they miss that one, right? Even though it's the easiest day, it's the one that you're like, is this really, like what does everybody skip? What is it? What do Olympic weightlifters skip? Bench press. Like I remember, like Kate and I bench pressing like 40 kilos on Instagram. It's like she's a silver medalist in the Olympics because bench press is not what we do. Right. So that's your practice. Your practice is filled with things that they're like that you're doing 10 minutes of up downs. Okay. So now we take this same practice plan that we just laughed about, and we take that and we transfer that to the kids. But we take that and we transfer that to the kids, to the youth kids. Who decides when the youth kids miss practice?
Mama.
So mama goes, well, I watch practice. They jump up and down for 10 minutes. They jog a lap. They jump up and down for 10 minutes. They push each other for 10 yards. And then they stand around in this kind of amalgamation in the middle of the field, and they run a play every 2 minutes. And then the coach talks to one kid, and it's usually not my kid. And then
Do
2
that,
minutes
no.
later, they run another play. So he's got a haircut. He's got a dentist appointment. We're having dinner with some family friends. We got this. We got that. They're not going to come to practice. So if you don't teach your kids why this is important and you don't run a good practice, they will not show up, because it's adults making this decision, whether you are a semi-pro coach. High school is different. High school, we can hold them to a standard. Now, you run crappy practices in high school, you're going to have the same problems. But high school, you can say, I'm going to kick you off the team, whatever. You're going to have low numbers, but you can say, I'm going to kick you off the team if you don't show up. You're going to lose your scholarship. They're there anyway, right? They just got, they're there all day and they just got to walk across the street or come to the locker room or whatever. It's a lot easier to get them there in high school. But what happens in high school? I don't know if you guys know this. I'm going to go to tutoring. What do they do in tutoring? They do the homework. I know they don't do homework like they used to. They do the work. What happens a lot of times with the tutoring is they go and they do the work that they could have done in class during practice, instead of saying, I got to get this done because I got to be at practice. They find ways to get out of practice, and you go, these kids don't want to practice. It's because there's no point. You'll always have a few kids, but if you got a lot, there's no point. They don't know why they need to be at practice. Practice is just miserable. Practice sucks. And you tell them, oh, practice is supposed to be hard, so games are fun. Football isn't for everybody. That's the big one. Football is not for everybody. Not the way you do it, right? If you're running practices like that. So why does this matter? And we've moved into session 3. How do you motivate players to practice? Your practice matters. They're progressing. They're getting better. How do you create buy-in? If football coaches, I always tell our youth coaches this. I've talked about it a lot. I always tell our youth coaches this, but because it's funny with youth coaches, but everybody, this is the deal. You have 3 things. High school has a little bit more. College has a little bit more. 3 things that we need to do. Number 1, we need to teach them the skills and techniques to play the game and play the game safely. It's a dangerous game. You need to teach your players how to play the game, but how to play the game safely. You have a responsibility to that. Number 2, you need to make sure that your players have fun so that they come back next year. And the only exception to that is your seniors. You need to make sure they have fun so that they have fantastic memories of football in their life, and they want to be coaches, and they want to do all these things. And number 3, you need to win games, because number 1, it's not that fun to lose. Number 2, assuming that you're a high school coach, you're not going to get to do it for long if you don't win games. So you'll never get, and guys say, well, the purpose of it's character building. All of that is secondary. It really is, guys. It really is. It happens, but it really is. And the reason that it's secondary is you won't get to build character if you're 0-20. You'll be gone. You will not have the impact. You have to teach them the skills and techniques that they need to play the game and play this game safely, to enjoy the game so that they come back again next year and to win football games. If you don't do those three things, and I always tell our youth football coaches, because if you don't learn, if you do the stuff that's in this book, if you run this practice plan that we've been joking about, you won't be teaching the skills and techniques that they need, and you won't be winning games. They'll just be having fun, maybe, if they're there. And that's a babysitter. You got 10-year-olds and they're not learning the skills and techniques and they're not winning games, you're a babysitter. That's it.
Making practice matters a big one. I know you kind of went on that for a while. I don't want to cover very long, but I think that's.
I didn't think it was that long. A while? It was like 20 minutes.
It was a good amount. It's a podcast. That's what we do. We sit and we talk.
15, it might have been 13. Somebody stopwatch that. Just about throw in the timestamp. If you want to get a free practice plan template, you've got a timestamp when I went on the longest rant of the episode. I don't know if that was that one.
Oh man, that's funny.
Just kidding. You don't have to.
Yes. This isn't like, I know we're talking about motivating players for practice. This isn't like gimmicky t-shirts and all that stuff. Like, there's room for all that. Giving a practice player of the
It's
week,
fun and all, but yeah.
I get you. That's to get them in there and engaged 5 days a week. Because sometimes your battery isn't going to have the power one day, right? And you're going to have to get your juice from somewhere else. But really is like making the kids want to show up. I like those 3 things, Joe. Those are great 3 things. I think just keeping it. This goes back to players don't care that you care until they know what you know. And I know that's backwards from how everybody else says it, but we say it that way on this show because these kids need to know that your practices are going to help them win games. What you're teaching them in practice is going to make them a better football player. It's going to help them get to college. It's going to help them be a better person. It's going to help them show out at a 7-on-7 tournament or a camp, whatever it is. You've got to give them something. And if they're coming to practice and spend all that time out there and you're not giving them any of those things, it's just like year 3, Joe. They're just not going to come. There's so much more things that are important. We're worried about why kids want to go to freaking EU baseball in the middle of summer workouts.
Because that guy cares about him too, by the way.
Right. Or
Yeah,
spring.
which is who cares about him. You know, if they got another coach that cares about him, they're not coming to you. You're not the only guy available. Football coaches have gotten so up their own tails about like, we're the only people that can help these kids. Most of them have parents. A lot of them have other coaches. It ain't just you. Okay. Just being the guy that cares about them ain't enough. Lots of people care. You got teachers that care.
You've got to give them whatever it is that they're looking for. And that's another piece of it is you got to know your kids. You got to meet them where they are. What are they looking for?
Yeah.
It ain't the same for everybody. Look, you gave those 3. You're going to get some kid who's shaving at freaking 8 years old. He doesn't need you to give him a skill to stay safe because he's going to just run everybody over for the next 2 years. You know what I mean? So what are you doing for him? How are you elevating his his football experience? He's already having fun because he's the best one in the county.
Yeah, but
he's going to run everybody over.
You're right. That's where like you might be the one protecting him from the guys that are telling him he's D1 at 8 years old.
Touche.
Right? That might be your job.
100%. Anyway. All right.
One more thing on the 9-minute practice plan before we close.
Of course.
Because that's very much relates to this. And I tell this story all the time in the 9-minute practice plan. 2 weeks in to running the 9-minute practice plan, the coaches weren't totally bought in other than me. And it's only because I had made it, only because Justin DeTavio dared me. Right. 2 weeks in, though, we had a crappy practice. School hadn't started yet. We had a crappy practice. Brought them all up. We had our squad leaders. We had a pretty experienced football team. 90 minutes. We went 90 minutes. At the end of that practice plan said practice is over. Brought them up. What do you guys think about today's practice? Bad, coach. Went good. What are we going to do about it? Coach, start over right now. We're going to get it right. No, I'm going home. 90 minutes. Practice plan says 90 minutes. At the end of 90, there is no do it right, do it light. Cut all that crap out. Cut do it right, do it light out. Cut start it over out. 90 minutes. Here's why. That was the last bad practice we had.
That's
first day of school. We had a great practice because they knew in 90 minutes we can go talk about the girl that we sat next to in our third block. Yeah. Okay. We can talk about how fat Susie got over the summer. Okay. 90 minutes. They know in 90 minutes. Mom knows in 90 minutes we're off the field. So you can't come to me and say he's got to quit because of his grades. Because you and I both know that if he's home at 5 o'clock, he has plenty of time before he stops text messaging people at 2 a.m. to fix his grades. You and I both know that. You can't give me that. That's the power of a 90-minute practice plan. Whether it's 90 or 2 hours or whatever, this is what we have, and when it's over and it's gone. And that day was gone. And at that point, they knew. Did every kid have a great practice the rest of the season? Of course not. They're kids. Every single one of them had a couple bad practices.
Yeah.
But as a collective, it never happened again.
I love it.
And you can tell you got a kid having a bad day. Your kids get up in their feelings. Got to go. You just go over there. We don't have time. If you're having a day, you got to have a day over there because we don't have time.
Go over there in that other field.
The other 18 of us, we ain't got time. Go over there. Sorry.
I think we've checked all the boxes tonight. Episode turned out a lot. It was fantastic. So that is it from us. Before you go, do your football family a favor. Share this episode. You might be the reason another coach gets better this week. Maybe it's this. I know we talked a lot about video games in the beginning, but, we got to keep it light too. Tonight, we talked about keeping energy high, the 90-minute practice plan, planning high-energy, productive practices to get results, and motivating athletes to perform in practice. Last week, we talked about we can't stop dual threat quarterbacks, and next week, we're on to our team doesn't play with confidence. We're going to yell, be confident a bunch. It's going to be fantastic. So hopefully you jump back in for that episode next week. Share those out, guys. Any of those, there's a lot out there. Let's pay the bills one more time. Get out of here, Joe.
I full screened the podcast. Now I got to figure out
I
how to get
gotta
out
find
of it.
it. Get another screen. What are you doing?
I got two screens. I just didn't have it up on the other screen, and then I would be looking over here. The difference between a championship defense and a defense struggling every Friday night is not just talent and it's not luck. It's the system. Without a system, you scramble every week trying to fix problems on the fly. You may be doing that right now. Confused players, assistants aren't on the same page, defense playing from its heels. Having worked with over 10,000 football coaches, many of them are making the same mistakes. We're overcomplicating football, running a sack of plays. We're messing up our defensive practice plans, and we're calling front stunts, blitzes, and coverages from the seat of your pants. Once we put in a real defensive system, you have to, by the way, you must have a system in place in order to do all the things that we talked about. In order to make the plan, in order to know the focus, in order to make the adjustments, you must have a system in place. Once you do that, your players play faster, your coaches have more confidence, you start winning more football games. And I put together a guide for you, a free guide called What You Need to Know to Build the Ultimate Defensive Football Coaching System. It's a guide that's going to give you the blueprint for building a defensive system that works or repairing one that isn't working right now if you're in season, to simplify your playbook, get your players to buy in, and take control of the game. And we talked about buy-in today already. Download your free copy right now at joedanielfootball.com/system to take the guesswork out of coaching, build your ultimate defensive system, and turn your football program around this season. And by the way, if you go to the homepage, joedanielfootball.com, there's a button up at the top there that says guides, and you'll be able to get this guide and the break and losing cycle guide and anything else that we added between now and when that time comes that you go to the website. Go to joedanielfootball.com to get access now.
Social media, I am at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter/X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. Joe, where are you at, sir?
As I mentioned, if you do want the practice plan templates, we have them everywhere. But if you email me, Joe at joedanielfootball.com, I'll make sure that somebody gets that to you. It may take a couple days, but somebody will get that to you. I am on Twitter or X info. That's the only weird one. FOOTBALLINFO. Facebook.com/JoeDanielFootball. Instagram is at JoeDanielFootball. TikTok is at JoeDanielFootball. And I think that's it. I don't think I missed anything. JoeDanielFootball.com, as I mentioned.
JoeDanielFootball.com. If this is your first time listening to the Football Coaching Podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher. Spotify and Apple Podcasts is primarily where people listen. If you've listened for a while, please leave a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. That's the big one. That's all the money is. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. And remember, coach simple, play fast, win.
YouTube.com/JoeDanielFootball. Dope. JoeDanielFootball.com/YouTube.
Love it. Go there to watch this exact same show.
You can watch it. You can watch it. You can watch me scream that.
There you go. Toodles.